ready for a deep dive. Today, we're heading to Scotland, to a place that's captured hearts and imaginations on screen and off. Doune Castle. Not just going to rattle off dates and names, though. We're going deeper, uncovering what makes Doune Castle so special that it's not just a historical site, but a genuine Hollywood star.
It really is remarkable how one structure can embody so many different things across time, across genres. I mean, they got this medieval fortress built in the late 14th century, rooted in Scottish history.
Right.
And yet it's instantly recognizable to fans of Monty Python, Outlander, even Game of Thrones.
It's true. It's like Doune Castle has this chameleon-like quality, right? It can be anything a filmmaker needs it to be. So what's the secret sauce? What makes it so adaptable, so visually captivating that directors keep coming back to it?
Well, part of it is its sheer presence. Doune Castle wasn't built to blend in. It was designed to impress, to project an air of strength and authority. Those imposing walls, that strategic location, it all adds up to a visual representation of power, and that translates incredibly well on screen, no matter the setting.
So it's not just about looking pretty, it's about conveying a sense of history, of weight, even in a comedic context like Monty Python. Did our sources give any specific examples of how filmmakers tapped into that?
They did.
Mhm.
One source mentioned how Monty Python used forced perspective and clever camera angles at Doune Castle to emphasize its size, to make it seem even grander and more imposing, which of course played perfectly into the film's absurdist humor.
Oh, I can totally picture those scenes now. The juxtaposition of the castle's grandeur with the python's antics. But it's more than just clever camera work, right? Doune Castle must have something in its DNA, architecturally speaking, that lends itself to storytelling.
Exactly. It's not just a pretty facade. Doune Castle has a unique layout with its well-preserved courtyard, its towers, chambers, all these spaces that filmmakers can use to create a sense of depth and intrigue.
And that's got to be gold for actors too, right? Being able to work within a space that feels authentic, lived in, whether it's supposed to be medieval Scotland or a fantasy realm.
Absolutely. That sense of place can make all the difference in a performance. It grounds the actors in the world of the story.
So we've got this perfect storm, right? Visual impact, a practical layout, and that intangible it factor that just screams, "Film me!" No wonder Dune Castle is such a hit. But this whole conversation has me thinking about a larger trend. This desire to visit the places we see on screen, to experience them for ourselves. It's like suddenly those fictional worlds feel within reach.
You're talking about screen tourism, and it's a fascinating phenomenon. People are drawn to these locations, wanting to see them with their own eyes, to connect with the stories they love in a tangible way.
And it makes sense, especially with a show like Outlander, where Scotland itself is practically a character. Our sources mentioned that Doune Castle wasn't the only Scottish location featured in the show, right?
Right. Outlander makes the most of Scotland's stunning landscapes and historic sites, and one that stands out is Blackness Castle.
Oh, Blackness Castle. Now that's a name that sparks curiosity. What's the story there? What makes it so special?
Well, it's often called the ship that never sailed, and you'll see why when you picture it.
Okay, the ship that never sailed. Now you've got my attention. Tell me more.
Imagine this, a massive stone structure shaped remarkably like a ship, perched right on the edge of the Firth of Forth.
Wow, that's a powerful image. I can practically hear the waves crashing against its hull. Sitting right on the Firth of Forth, was that location connected to its design?
You're spot on. And that's what makes Blackness Castle so fascinating. The Firth of Forth is a major estuary, and Blackness, built in the 15th century, was strategically placed there to control access and defend against seaborne attacks. So its design wasn't just for show, it was functional, mirroring the very real maritime activity it was meant to command.
So it wasn't just a castle, it was practically a fortress guarding the gateway to the heart of Scotland.
Incredible. I love how this deep dive started with a single location and has spiraled out to encompass broader themes like screen tourism and the strategic importance of castles in Scottish history. It's all connected, isn't it? And speaking of connections, our research also revealed some fascinating details about how these castles were used. Beyond their defensive roles, these castles served as important administrative centers, symbols of power and authority in their respective regions.
Ah, so not just strongholds, but centers of influence as well. Did any of them have particularly interesting stories in that regard?
Well, Doune Castle, for example, was once home to the powerful Dukes of Albany, who played a significant role in Scottish politics during the 15th and 16th centuries.
No kidding. So we're talking real Game of Thrones level intrigue here. Were there any specific events or figures associated with Doune that stood out in the research?
One source highlighted the castle's connection to Robert Stewart, Duke of Albany, who was known for his ambition and political maneuvering.
Ooh, ambition and political maneuvering sounds like my kind of history. What did he get up to?
Well, Robert Stewart was actually imprisoned at Doune Castle by his own nephew, King James I, after the king returned from captivity in England.
Wow, talk about family drama. What was the reason behind that imprisonment?
It seems King James suspected his uncle of plotting against him, aiming for the throne himself.
So those castle walls could tell quite a few tales of ambition, betrayal, maybe even a touch of revenge. Makes you wonder what secrets those stones hold.
It certainly does. And it speaks to the layers of history embedded in these places, how they've borne witness to centuries of power struggles, family dramas, and changing times.
It's a reminder that history isn't just about dates and battles. It's about human stories, relationships, and the choices people made within those imposing walls. You know, it's funny how we often associate castles with a sense of permanence, of being frozen in time, yet their stories are anything but static.
That's very true. They've been shaped and reshaped by the events and people who've inhabited them, constantly evolving over time. And speaking of evolution, let's talk about how these castles have found new life in the modern era as popular tourist destinations and filming locations.
Absolutely. It's fascinating how something built for defense centuries ago can capture the imaginations of people today, whether they're history buffs, film fans, or just looking for a unique travel experience.
It speaks to their enduring appeal, doesn't it? They offer a glimpse into the past, a sense of wonder and adventure that transcends time.
And with screen tourism, it's like that connection to the past is amplified, right? We're not just visiting a castle, we're stepping into the world of our favorite shows and movies.
Exactly. And for many, that experience is incredibly powerful, blurring the lines between fiction and reality.
It makes you appreciate the role these castles play in our collective imagination, how they can transport us to different worlds and time periods.
They become more than just physical structures. They become symbols, storytellers, and gateways to the past.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it, what stories these castles will tell in the future, how their legacies will continue to evolve. I think that's what's so amazing about these castles, you know? They have this ability to transcend time, to connect us to the past in a way that few other things can.
It's true. They stand as these silent witnesses to history, having seen it all unfold over the centuries. Battles, betrayals, power struggles, even moments of great artistry and creativity.
And now, with film and television, they're finding new life as settings for stories that capture our modern imaginations.
Exactly. It's like they've become these timeless backdrops, ready to transport us to any world, any era.
Which I think speaks to their enduring power, wouldn't you say? This ability to spark our curiosity, to make us want to learn more, to experience these places for ourselves.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of a good deep dive, isn't it?
Yeah.
It opens up these new worlds, these new perspectives, and leaves you with a sense of wonder and a thirst for more.
And maybe even inspires a few adventures along the way.
Who knows? Maybe someone listening will be inspired to seek out Doune Castle or Blackness Castle, or maybe even discover their own hidden gem right in their own backyard.
That's the thing about history and about storytelling. It's all around us, just waiting to be discovered.
You just have to know where to look.
And sometimes, all it takes is a single spark, a castle, a film, a deep dive, to ignite that curiosity and set you off on a journey of exploration.
Well said. And with that, I think we've reached the end of our own little journey for today. Until next time.